Hello, people. Let me know if you're in the chat. I am back. Whew. I have better internet, which was like the main thing I needed to get sorted because I was so frustrated with that. And I'm over my cold. Or I'm getting over my cold. So let me just let people know that we are live. It's just going to be a random show, but that's fine. Let me know how you guys are feeling in the chat. I missed you guys. You guys are the best. Let's see. Just trying to get the link here. Let me know what you guys want me to talk about first, because I have thoughts. I really do. Okay. All right. Let everybody know we're live. Cool. All right. Let's get into it. Welcome. Kenshin says, hey, Jess, hello to you as well. Hello to you as well. Tawana says, hey, Jess, missed your content so much. Our store drained me with no signings. I'm worried. We're going to get into it. Zich says, hey, Jess, spotted. Definitely been doing some new content on my Instagram if you guys are not following me, which you guys should be. Let's see. There's something missing here. What is it? Who cares? Okay. I am okay. For those of you guys who are asking, I'm fine. I actually had to contact Spectrum, which is my internet provider, to kind of diagnose why my internet was going out so frequently and why I was having so many issues with it. And so I've finally gotten a new modem and a new router and stuff like that. And then I also was ill. So I was like, I really need to be ready to come back before I do. And it's perfect timing because preseason starts, or preseason games actually start next week. I'll be going to Arsenal's game against Bournemouth, and I'll also be going to the game against Manchester United. But we'll be doing watch-alongs for the game against Liverpool and then the Emirates Cup. So just to let you guys know that. So I want to start off with, I think while I've been gone, kind of missed the height of the talk around Calafiori and Arsenal being really interested in him. Arsenal jumped on it once it was really clear that Bologna was not going to sell Calafiori to Juventus. And it looked like the deal was moving quite quickly, but the issue really came when Arsenal offered like 45 million or 40 million, and Bologna want to get closer to 50 because they have a 50% sell-on clause from Basel. And so Basel are going to get 50% of whatever Bologna make from this sale. And so they're trying to push Arsenal up. Bologna have tried to go back to Basel and see if they can renegotiate it, but Basel's like, absolutely not. And to be honest, from Bologna's standpoint, that's idiotic. Like, who does a 50% sell-on? Like, that's actually insane. And so I guess it's just whether or not Arsenal budge and actually give them the additional 5 million or whatever it is to get the deal done. But Bologna also want a lot of it up front. They want damn near the whole thing up front. Last thing I read is they want 42 million up front, which is basically all that we're paying. And so basically now you're paying almost like in a release clause for someone that I'm not going to say we don't need, but I'm going to say is less of a priority than the winger that we need to bring in, less than a priority of the midfielder that we need to bring in. And so we're at a stalemate here with Bologna, trying to figure out if Arsenal are going to cave into these demands. And, 42 million up front is so much different than paying, 10 million over 4 years or 5 million over 8 years, or, whatever staggered deal that I'm sure Arsenal really wanted to do. So there's several layers here that I've been thinking about over the last couple of days. Is there was a report that came out maybe like earlier today that KSE are unwilling to give Edu any more money until there's sales. They want to see some sales because, they've been basically fronting a lot of money into this project without any return, because we haven't sold really at all. If we're really honest, like the sales have been basically like nothing, right? And so they want to see some sales, and I do not blame them whatsoever, because when they basically had to sell, like mortgage everything in order to get Declan Rice. We spent 65 million on Kai Havertz last summer. And at the beginning of last summer, the whole thing was Arsenal were going to get like 100 million back in sales, and we didn't get anywhere near that. And so they want money back, and I don't blame them at all. But my thinking is, if they did give you 40 something million to start off with, I don't know if that's the exact figure. Let's say it's 50 million. I don't know. And everything else was going to come after you sell. Why is the first thing that you went after a defender? We should have an attacker signed, sealed, and delivered right now, or a midfielder. Why would your first thought be to go get the defender? Why? Not saying it's not something that we shouldn't be getting. It's an area of improvement. I think left back definitely needs some work. But my goodness, could we have not taken that 50 million and tried to bring in a winger? Because we need one. Saka, is somebody that's going to be coming back off of a lot of minutes in the Euros, a lot of minutes from Arsenal. I would love for him to have a slower introduction into this season, but he's not going to be able to have it if we don't have somebody coming in. And so I just wonder about our priorities sometimes, because it's just like, if they were like, listen, we're only going to give you this amount, and until you sell, we're not going to give you any more. I would imagine you would use that money on something that we like desperately need. We need a defender, but we don't desperately need a defender. We desperately need a winger. We desperately need a midfielder, And so that's something that's been playing on my mind. And then it's the sales situation. Now, we have some things cooking, which look pretty fruitful, but I never count my chickens before they hatch with Edu, because again, there have been many summers gone by where it looks like we're going to get something and it ends up being something completely different. Like we loaned Nuno Tavares to Lazio. It was supposed to be a loan with an obligation to buy, but it ended up being a loan with an option to buy for way less than what was originally said. And it's an obligation only if certain things are triggered. So not only is it not a clear obligation, even if we were to sell him, it's still for less than what we bought him for. Originally, it was 7 to 9 million pounds. It went down to 4 million. And so I never count my chickens before they hatch. So right now we potentially have a bidding war between Crystal Palace and Fulham for Emile Smith-Rowe. That's great, but I need to see the money. I need to see the money, because we don't have a good track record. And 40 million could end up being 35 million, could end up being 30 million, could be nothing, So there's that. You have a couple of different irons in the fire. But could we have not sold some of these players before? Eddie, we know he should have been gone a long time ago. Reece Nelson, we know he should have been gone a long time ago. So we really should be getting good money for these players. But the way that Sambi went down, the way that Nuno went down, I'm a little afraid to be like, oh my gosh, we have all these irons in the fire. It's going to work out, So those are things I've been thinking about over the last couple of days, because nothing has really happened in our window so far. And I know what usually happens is because other people are starting to do things, we're starting to panic. Besides the fact that Man United are doing a madness, besides the fact that, whoever else in the hell is doing something, I'm just looking at my club and I'm thinking, we're definitely going into next week without any new signings. That is very clear. And maybe not even selling anybody. So what was the plan? Because it couldn't have been this, But that's what I've been thinking. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat. Let's see. Marie says we miss Fofana of Monaco because we don't focus on the priority. Jagoon says, hi, Jess. Also, the pressure on Edu is on. Can I be honest? Can I be so freaking for real with you guys right now? Maybe it's because it's Friday. Maybe it's because I don't know. But I just feel like being so freaking for real. Edu is getting blown out of the water by like other sporting directors. Like I love Edu as a player. I love him as a person. Like, you know what I mean? Like he's special because he's an invincible and all that kind of stuff. But as a sporting director, I feel like he is so average. I'll be so honest. Like I think he's so average. And I think these new sporting directors that Man United have gotten, that Newcastle have gotten, are going to blow him out of the water. I just think Arsenal deserve to have somebody that really has the appropriate connections and the ability to move in the market. We're moving effectively, efficiently, and smart. And I just feel like everything is so slow. We rush in there and then everything just kind of slows down, snail's pace, can't get things done. We don't get sales done at the optimal amount that we can. And people just say it's because we don't have players that we can sell, but we do have players that we can sell. We're always in a position where we have players that we could sell. We just wait too long. We've been offered money for some of these players before. We were offered 15 million from Brighton last summer for Reece Nelson. We've been offered money for Eddie Nketiah in summers gone past. So it's not that people don't want these players. It's just we don't sell well. We don't. And we don't move quickly in the market unless we overpay. If we're willing to overpay for somebody, we can move very quickly. But for the most part, it's not like we can move efficiently and quickly at the same time. It's either efficiently, but we quickly and we overspend, or, it's slow and then we finally get to the mark that we want to go to. It's, it's just crazy, so I've always felt this way about Edu. I think he's done a lot of good things, but if I had to give him a grade, I'd probably give him like a B- if I'm being nice. I don't think he's the best. I think when you look at both Arteta and Edu, who do you think is doing a better job? Who's maximizing their resources the best? It's Arteta. With what he's been given, some of this is on Arteta too, by the way. I'm not saying he's totally out of it. But I think Arteta gets a lot out of what Edu gives him, and if he wasn't as good of a coach as he is, we would suffer a lot more because he can make things work. And I don't think he gets enough credit for that. I think Edu is much worse. He's not as good of a sporting director as Arteta is a manager, if that makes sense. And so an area of improvement to me would be to see what Edu does this summer. And if he cannot produce, then maybe look to bring in somebody that's a little bit more experienced, somebody that really knows what they're doing, somebody that has the connections, because that's really where the margins are, like with your coach and with your sporting director behind. Like those two hires in itself can put you way ahead of other people. And I just don't feel like we get enough from Edu, but that's just me. The pressure has to be on him. He just doesn't seem like he can get things going quickly and efficiently. We ran up in there to do the Calafiori deal only for it to be stalled for multiple weeks. People are saying it's just because he's on vacation. It's not because he's on vacation, guys. Quite literally, they're waiting to see if Arsenal are going to give more money up front. And we are just sitting there, probably maybe needing to make a sale or something before we can move. And, Kivior is also a part of this too, because they wanted to offer Kivior as a make weight, which would have been perfect, but he wants to wait for AC Milan or Napoli or whatever, which also goes back to my efficiency thing, because quite frankly, we shouldn't be in this position anyway. We should not be looking to buy Calafiori a year after we bought Kivior. We should have either never bought Kivior, or we should be making Arteta work with Kivior. Neither of those two things are happening. Like, we've already bought him, and they're not making Arteta like stand on it. You know, Arteta's like, I don't really rate this guy. I'd rather have Calafiori. Do you know how wasteful that is? That's incredibly wasteful to buy Kivior and then 1 year later going down and buying Calafiori. It's so incredibly wasteful, and Kivior is kind of in the way of getting this done. And I don't blame him for not wanting to go to Bologna. You can't force him to go. I know some people are mad at Kivior for not wanting to go, but in reality, this all goes back to buying Kivior. Either Edu should have known that this is not a player that Arteta would have wanted long-term and would have worked out for us, or he should say, you know what, Arteta, I'm not giving you Calafiori. You're going to work with Kivior. You're going to work with Kivior. You're going to work with Tommy. You know, we'll sell Zinchenko, but you're going to work with the two of them. You also have Timber that you can play on that side. And we're going to use the 50 million that we have to go buy somebody up front or to buy somebody in midfield. But where are the adults in the room? Where are the adults in the room? Do you know what I mean? That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Shamaria says, I'm giving it a week before I start worrying about transfers. Kenshin says, Osimhen and Neves linked to PSG, Sesko staying at RB Leipzig, Onana moving to Villa, Nico linked to Barca, all the players we talked about since January moving on. Well, I don't think we can actually move on anybody until we start selling. We had a certain amount to start off with that we decided to put towards a defender. And that deal has stalled. So now it feels like we can't do anything until we sell. So we are beholden to West Ham buying Reece Nelson, Marseille buying Nketiah, and one of Fulham or Crystal Palace buying Emile until we do anything else. So there's nothing we really can do, you know? And so, yeah, like Osimhen and Neves are people that we've been linked to. I don't ever really buy that we were ever going to be in a position this summer to splash, you know, whatever amount it's going to take to get Osimhen or Neves or whatever. Sesko saying at RB Leipzig is best for his career. Onana moving to Villa is like, yes, I don't have to hear about that shit anymore. You know, so Nico Williams is one that we should not spend any time on because he's made it pretty clear that he wants to go to Barcelona. They're twerking for him. He's twerking for them. We should leave that alone, but that's just me. LJ Brown says Edu needs to learn how to negotiate. Jordan Davis says Edu is not efficient. He takes too long. I see other clubs moving quick, smart, and efficient when negotiating, but we always take long. I see other clubs selling players with ease, and we can't seem to. And here's the thing. At the beginning of this like new era with Arteta and Edu, it made more sense for us to move slow and not to be as efficient because they're both learning on the job pretty much, you know, and we didn't have that great of assets to sell. But now it doesn't make as much sense. And I'll tell you what, I think Aston Villa are better than we are in some respects, like in terms of being able to move players on and being able to bring players in. They're very quick with everything that they do. I think, you know, obviously both Newcastle and Manchester United have hired really good sporting directors. And I mean, Manchester United are literally seeing the fruits of that very early on in having that person in the seat. Very quick. It's happened very quickly for them, which is unfortunate for us. Newcastle, they have a really good sporting director as well. You know, Manchester City are really good at business. You know, we are the slowest to get things done. We don't sell well. And as much as some people I do feel like want to pretend like everything that we do is so smart, I don't actually think it is. I think it's okay sometimes to say that you have questions about why is it that we can't sell? Why is it that we can't sell somebody to Saudi? Why is it that it takes us like months to get like one thing done, you know? And so why do we waste time on players that we know don't want to come? Things like that. So yeah, I think it's a tough one because we don't know everything. But I think when you look around you look around and you see that other people can get things done quickly, but we can't. It's hard to ignore it and just put it in the back burner as like, yeah, well, that's just how things are. Like, I don't think that's actually how things are. Pablo, thank you so much for your super chat. Says, glad to see you back. Left wing is a serious priority. Wing, both sides, somebody that can play both sides is definitely a priority. I would say, you know, if Arsenal, and I have mixed feelings about this because I don't actually believe 100% that we're just like really trying our hardest to get Nico Williams. I don't think we're trying our hardest to get Nico Williams. I think some of it is a little bit. I think some of it is a little bit of like playing, you know, like saying we're going after him, but maybe we're looking at somebody else. I don't know. That's kind of what I'm hoping. But genuinely, he would solve a lot of our problems. But I just think he's out of our. He's out. Like, he's going to go to Barcelona. They will figure out a way to get the money, and even if let's say they can't get it now, he'll just wait. He's not going to come to Arsenal. Like, he's very happy at Bilbao. They're paying him a lot. The wages have to be a stumbling block. They just have to be. So if you can't get him, there has to be somebody that they've been looking at. And maybe they're waiting on some dominoes to fall. I don't know. But genuinely, it's a position of huge priority that I would have loved for us to, if the Cronkies did give us an initial amount, that it would have been used for that and not Calafiori. But, you know, it is what it is. But we definitely need a winger. We need to reinvigorate that front line. It's stale, for lack of a better word. It just feels like we know what it is. It's not offering any new questions to the opposition. They know what we can do. Now, I do feel like if Jesus is fit, which is a huge question mark, it could be like a new signing, but that should not keep us from getting someone. But right now, I do feel like I would love to see Arsenal be moving on a winger, but we don't have any money. We don't have any money. Like, it's like one in, one out. Reece Nelson has to go for us to be able to bring somebody in. Maybe even Reece Nelson and Nketiah have to go for us to bring somebody in. Emile has to go for us to bring somebody in midfield. So, yeah. And if you guys are like, what is wrong with my nose and stuff? I'm getting over like a really bad cold. So excuse me. Hillary says, you seem like you don't like Calafiori. No, I mean, it's not that I don't like him. I feel like I'm just not, like I've said, I don't think it's as big of a priority as other things. So there's a difference between not liking a player and not feeling like their position is as big of a priority as other positions. So again, like, your parents give you, let's say you're broke, you got $0 in your account, and they're so nice and they give you like $50, right? And you're hungry and you don't have anything else. You don't want to go to spend that $50 on something that is not pressing. You need to go get food and water because that's the most important thing. But if you go and get fucking candy or ice cream, or you spend it on movie tickets or something that's not as important, you like those things and those things are fine and you can use them. But if that's all you're getting up front from your family or your parents, you should spend it on food and water first and try to make it last and get something that you really need that's a priority. So it's not that I don't like candy and movie tickets and ice cream. I like those things, which is Calafiori. Calafiori looks like a great player. He looks like an upgrade on Kivior. So, like, those things are fine. I can see those things. But if we're only going to get a certain amount up front and we wanted to get somebody in before preseason, it should have been in a priority position, a higher priority position. That's all I'm saying. So it's not about disliking Calafiori. I would love Calafiori to come. Do I believe that deal is going to get done? No. At this stage, it's not looking good. I know that people on Arsenal's side are saying that they feel confident in getting it done. Juventus have moved on to Tobito, and that looks to be pretty much done. So it's not like we're waiting on Juventus hijack. But I've also been reading things about Real Madrid wanting to look at maybe Calafiori too, because we're just stagnant, So we are leaving that gap open for other teams to start looking around and saying, well, can we jump in there? And so for me, it doesn't look like it's going to get done, but that's just me. And I would rather us use that money on a priority. Like, I don't know, because I can't think of the winger right now just because the winger market is not great, but that's up to them to figure it out. So yeah. John P says, I don't think just because someone is the first signing doesn't mean he is the priority. I think we went pretty hard for Sesko first. These signings never happened in order of priority. I guess it's just different to me when you only have a certain amount before you can move to something else. So if we can move on certain things, like last summer, I really did buy into the order doesn't mean anything. And as a thought, like I believe that as well. What you do first doesn't necessarily mean it's a priority. But if you only have 50 million or a certain amount and KSE is like, we're not giving you anything else until you sell, then yeah, you do kind of need to go with your priority because you only have a certain amount. So I think that changes things a little bit because last summer, Kai Havertz got done first, but we were also working on Timber and also working on Declan Rice because we had more money to play with. This summer, it doesn't feel the same. So from my perspective, it does change things a little bit more. And to get at least one signing in, the only position that I felt like needed to be in before preseason started was probably a winger. The attacker needed to be in first to allow Saka the amount of time that he would need in order to get ready for the season. So we're fine in defense. Like, we're fine in defense, if that makes sense. So, but I get what you guys are saying. But I do feel like we should have moved on something a little bit faster. Alistair Ben says, how is the front line stale? We have the second most goals last season and not far off of City. The front line is stale because we're not asking any different questions of the defenses that we're going to be coming up against. And we know that they will be ready for us this season. They will have figured out what we're doing. It happens every summer. Every summer, come in with something. If we don't come in with something different, like last summer, we came into the season, we didn't really change the front line at all. It was stale. It was stale until we brought Kai and put him up front, and then things changed. So in terms of this whole idea that Arsenal have all these goals, second most to City, that doesn't matter. The amount of goals that we score doesn't really matter because we scored a lot of those goals in one particular period. But when we went away to Villa, we drew blank. When we went away to Newcastle, we drew blank. Went away to City, drew blank. When we were at home against West Ham, we drew blank. Home against Aston Villa, we drew blank, which were all very important games. So technically, you could say that if we could have scored less goals and won the league if we had scored, I don't know, like 1-2 goals against Villa instead of scoring 6 against West Ham. Our problem is not the amount of goals that we're scoring. Our issue is that we don't have X factor in games where the margins are fine and we need to just make something out of nothing. That's one. And we don't have anybody that's clinical under a lot of pressure except for Trossard. That's it. The only player under maximum pressure that can come up with the goods is Trossard. Everybody else flatters to deceive when the lights are the brightest. Trossard came up with 2 massive goals in the Champions League to keep us alive. Nobody else could do it. So it's not about the amount. It's about the circumstances in which we draw blanks on a regular basis that keep us from going to the next round of Champions League and getting beyond Bayern Munich and winning the league. Our problem last season was not the amount of goals that we scored. It was the fact that we went through a title-winning team does not get shut out at home multiple times. And not even by good teams. We got shut out at home by West Ham. Aston Villa is a good team, but you know what I mean? It wasn't even like City. Aston Villa at home, West Ham at home. So this whole thing about we score enough goals is just an excuse I feel like people use to protect our attackers because they don't want to say was the truth. The truth about our attackers is that they are very good, but when the lights are shining the brightest, they don't come up with the goods. They miss very clear opportunities to get us ahead. So I don't know what to tell you. Like, you don't get shut out at home multiple times and win the league. You don't. So we need new attackers. We need to freshen things up. They know what we're coming with. And we need more X factor. In fact, the fact that we heard that from the Athletic as well, that Arsenal knew that after the Bayern Munich game at Allianz Arena, I'm not just talking out of my ass here. The club also know that we lack X factor. So it's not about the amount. It's about we drew so many blanks. We were actually better the season prior in terms of the amount of games that we scored goals in. We scored in more games last season than we did in this season, this past season, if that makes sense. So we don't have it, and in games where you're, at the Etihad, you need to be able to create a moment of magic. And I just feel like we don't have that, and so, yeah, these guys are good. When I say it's stale, I'm not saying that Saka and Martinelli are shit. That's not what I'm saying. But genuinely, we need something a little bit different. And it's not about them not being good players or anything like that. Jado says, we don't have a forward problem. The problem is that we have Declan Rice at CDM in midfield. Once we moved Declan to left 8 and put a better 6, Jorginho, we started cooking. We played with Declan Rice and Jorginho at the base of midfield and had problems scoring goals in the brightest of lights in the Champions League. We did it away at Porto. We did it at the Allianz Arena. We have these issues. So to me, it's not really a midfield problem. I think we genuinely we don't have somebody that can just create a moment of magic. So a good example that I would say is that, remember the goal that Ollie Watkins scored in, I think, the semifinal of the Euros to get England to the final? That goal was the XG was so low on that goal. You don't score that goal. You know what I mean? But he had the ability to turn that small chance, which is a chance that I could see Jesus having, a chance that I could see Havertz having, a chance that I could see, Saka having. Let's not put Saka in it because we know Saka could do special things on special moments. But let's just say those two in particular. Eddie having, and they don't put it in the side net. They're not going to be able to create that moment. You know what I mean? Most strikers aren't going to be able to do that. He was able to create a moment basically out of nothing, because that was a good pass from Cole Palmer. It wasn't a bad pass, but the angle wasn't really suiting him at that moment. And that's all I'm saying, is that we lack a little bit of that. And that's it. It's not that deep. It's not. We just need to bring somebody in. Now, there is the aspect of, a new signing. And I think I'm looking forward to Martinelli and Jesus this season, because I feel like we lost them. Last season, we genuinely did not see Martinelli and Jesus. That was not them. The season prior, they were all up and through, especially the first 4 months with Jesus that wasn't injured before the World Cup. I'm looking forward to seeing them back in the fold, fully fit, fully focused, so they will be like a new signing for sure. Timber, like a new signing. That's fine. I still feel like you need a little bit more, because even when they were cooking, we felt that last summer, that we still need to bring somebody in. So I think we do need one more attacker. What's the problem? Pelza says, Smith Rowe to Crystal Palace and we get Eze. It's good business for both clubs. Your thoughts on this? Yeah, I'm down for Eze. I think he has a little bit of sparkle, a little sparkle. And here's the thing: if as of now, we have. It looks like Jorginho's staying. Well, we know Jorginho's staying. It looks like Partey will potentially stay as well. Which, I said once he gets into the final year of his deal, we're going to have a really difficult time moving him on. So that means no other number 6 will come in, which automatically moves Declan Rice to the 8, by the way. For those of you guys that don't like him at 6, you'll get what you want. Jorginho plus Partey means Declan Rice will stay in the 8, which is rumored what Arsenal think is his best position. So there's that. If you don't, with Declan Rice, Jorginho, and Partey, as much as people will say that we need another DM, we don't, because you'll have 3 DMs in the team. There's no reason to buy another DM, another player that can play number 6 or in a deeper role if you have the 3 of them. So then you have to look further forward. And I think that's where the Emile Smith-Rowe sale becomes more interesting, because then you can choose to bring in somebody like Eze. Crystal Palace gets Emile, we get Eze. To me, it works in a way. Do I love it? Would I prefer us to get somebody more like just a true number 8? Yeah. But Eze is a great player, so I wouldn't say no to him. So yeah. Let's see what else you guys are saying. Osanuga says, what's your opinion on Richard Rios? When is this fraud Edu gonna get created? Dead. Good player. Looked great for Colombia. Has never played outside of Latin America. I think that needs to be said. He's the type of player that I feel like people will get gassed over, and I think he needs to land. Like, I don't think we need him. If Partey, Jorginho, and Declan Rice, we don't need him. We need something different. I think he's a good player. I don't think he solves our problems. I think, but he could end up going somewhere. Like, I've seen it. He's been linked to different teams in Serie A. That'd be a nice place for him to land and then see how he does. He's 24. So that move is perfect timing for him, really, to make a move. But he looks like a quality player, ex-futsal player. Like, there's no notes. Like, it looks like a good player, just not for us. John P says, I'm not against the Marino deal. 20 million euros seems like a bargain. Marino, let's see what's the most recent on him. I think there's like a lot of interest in him. Let's see. Let's look it up in a second. So this, like, 8 hours ago, Arsenal are confident in bringing in Calafiori, and Arsenal are also interested in Mikel Merino. I just think there's like a lot of interest in him from other clubs in Spain, which is probably gonna hurt us. Let's see. Yeah, I don't see anything like super recent, but Barcelona are interested in him, Arsenal are interested in him, and Atletico are interested in him. It's just whether or not those Spanish clubs could actually pay for him. I mean, how in the hell are Barcelona going to pay for Marino and pay for Nico Williams without getting rid of people? I just don't see how they can continue to get away with this. But Marino, here's the thing, is he strikes me as a like market opportunity, somebody that, is more he's different than any of the players that we have, which I think is super important. When you already have 3 DMs, in the team, you don't need another one. So we don't have any number 8s in the team. We have 6s and we have 10s. So it'd be really nice to bring in a number 8 to bridge that gap and give us that Xhaka player back. Now, I'm not saying he's exactly like Xhaka. I'm not saying he's as good as Xhaka. I'm not saying any of that, but I am saying that we do miss a little bit of somebody that can do that box-to-box role, that can offer something going forward, that's sturdy enough in midfield where we don't feel like we're going to break apart, and can do that role on that left-hand side. He's a good passer of the ball. He's athletic. He wins his duels. I kind of think this might be an unpopular opinion or may seem a little shady, but he's probably the response to Kai Havertz not working in midfield the way that Arteta thought he would. That's my unpopular opinion on it. Mikel Merino wins the duels. He runs a lot. But he's actually a midfielder. And here again, when I talk about efficiency, I'm talking about, buying players. As much as I like Kai, I like him. As much as I like Kivior, I like him. I just feel like those two players, when we're having to rebuy in the positions that they were supposed to play or they were supposed to solve, I find those to be very strange signings, especially at the fees in which we paid. So, buying Merino is just like what we should have done the summer prior when we lost Xhaka, is we should have brought in somebody that could immediately fill that position and do the similar things. Maybe not Merino, but there were other players on the market. I'm okay with Merino. It's not exciting. I don't care. We need an 8. We need an 8. Bad. We need someone that can do that role. So if it ends up being him, that's cool. I would also probably test PSG's resolve and see if Fabian Ruiz is available, because he's better than... Do I feel like he's actually better? I don't know if there's that much in it, but Ruiz, I think, is younger, and I think maybe better. Somebody that we were interested in when he was at Napoli. If they are bringing in João Neves, which it does look like they are, they have a lot of midfield. I would test the resolve on Fabian Ruiz. Because Fabian Ruiz, Declan Rice, Odegaard is a great midfield. We finally would have a number 8. We've been begging him for that for a long time. So yeah, that's what I would do. But I'm okay with the Merino thing. It's not that big of a deal to me. It's just get it done. Just get it done. ST says we should look at Gordon. He can play on both sides. Newcastle were willing to sell Liverpool a couple of weeks ago, but it broke down over a couple mil. I do think that was more when the PSR issues were coming up and people were doing mad deals. I think what I read about Newcastle is that the two players that they really do not want to sell is Isak and Gordon. And Bruno Guimaraes is actually not in that list. But Gordon is actually somebody that they would not want to sell. But I hear you. I don't know what we're going to do about that winger position. John P says, did you hear the Neto rumors today, Jess? I can't get behind it due to the injuries. I did see a little something, but the link, the person that was saying it, the source is not a good source. It's not anybody to... Like, saying that we're interested in Neto is like saying that, like, humans need water. It's like saying the sky is blue. It's like, we know that, until we actually do something about it, I'm not really listening. But what would be amazing is if we were working on somebody behind the scenes while saying that we were interested in Nico Williams. Should it be Neto? I don't know. He is so perfect for what we need, but he's just so injury prone. So you know how I feel about injury prone players. It's a nonsense. But like, on paper, Martinelli, Pedro Neto, Saka, Jesus, Trossi, Kai, that's a pretty good attack, so am I missing somebody? I feel like I'm missing somebody in that. You guys will let me know, but that's a good attack, so, but it would be great if you were to get him, it would need to be on a bargain, like 30 million, because you're only going to get half the player. John P says, I agree. Arteta is desperate for that box-crashing aerial player from midfield. Let's see. Walder says, such a shame ESR hasn't got the mentality. It must be mentality because the talent is there. I think it's also just he's very unreliable, like physically. So it's just time to cash in on him. The players that are leaving or should be leaving this summer should have left 1 to 2 summers ago, because there's been no change in the status of those players since then, if I'm honest. They are academy guys that we should have sold on. And I think the problem that we have as fans, which is a normal reaction, is our deepest fear is that they'll find the form that they should have had with us with someone else. But I genuinely want you to go back in your memory and think about all the players that we've ever lost academy-wise, or we've either sold or they've left on a free, and think back and how many of them have actually bit us in the ass. How many of them have we actually been like, oh wow, we should have kept them? There's probably like one, if we're honest, out of all of them that have left. As much hype as they had around them, and we always feel like we probably should have gotten rid of them a lot sooner. And so putting Eddie on those 100 million pound wages, putting Nelson on 90 million pounds or 90,000 pounds per week was all just a waste of time. They should have been gone summers ago. The money should have already been reinvested. We take way too long to move these guys on. Genuinely, like, I don't understand it, why we hoard these players for so long. But if we could get 35 million for Emil Smith-Rowe, 30 million for Eddie Nketiah, and 15 to 20 million for Reece Nelson, that would be fucking amazing. That would be brilliant, for keeping them so long. But I just feel less. I know some people feel like these players can do something and we just need to, especially when it comes to Emil. But genuinely, the season that people are holding on to was like 2 years ago, and like the COVID years. Like his best years were when there weren't fans in the stands. And so I'm not saying Emil's not a good player, but if we're doing what we're supposed to be doing, he should be able to flourish wherever he's at, and it shouldn't matter. It really shouldn't matter, because we should be growing. Whatever we get for those players, we should be able to bring in a player that gives us so much more than what those players could give us. We could actually bring in one player of a certain level that could give us more than what Emil and Nketiah and Reece Nelson could, if we buy properly. So I'm a big advocate of condensing the squad down and having like less players of higher quality than having a lot of fucking players that have bits of quality, but the fear, which is a genuine fear that makes sense to me as a fan, is what if they cook somewhere else and we don't reinvest the money properly? And I understand that. Like, I totally understand it. It's a normal fear for the fans. Foxy says, Cozier Dewberry went Brighton. Great move for him, but a lot of competition with Minta arriving as well. Yeah, like my biggest thing with, Cozier Dewberry and these guys is we're not getting anything from it. This is why I actually did the live today, because it was so random that I did it, because I wasn't going to. What is it? Good evening, but still no striker. Okay. Because I was gonna tweet it, but then I was like, I don't want to tweet this because I feel like you need to hear it, and it's like people don't take things well when they read it, because they don't actually read for comprehension. They read to respond or to react. My only issue, so cast your mind back to the dead rubber against PSV and the 6-0 against Lens at home. And we were having these conversations about, did it matter that, Miles Lewis Skelly and Rule Walters and these guys didn't get minutes in those games? And we talked about this a lot because I do think some people were using it as a stick to beat Mikal with. There's a certain section of the fan base that no matter what happens, they're furious about it, even if it doesn't make any rational sense. And I do think that there's some people that were like, I have a reason to be mad at Mikal. This is what I'm going to be mad about. These players didn't get game, right? My thing was more my overall feeling about the way that the academy exists and the way that we do not maximize the academy the way that we should. Now, I also want to be really real about our academy. We are not producing Lamine Yamals at Hale End. So people that were saying, oh, if Lamine Yamal played for Arsenal or he came from Hale End, he would be like still in the academy. Well, we don't got Lamine Yamal. So let's also remember that like the Hale End needs a lot of work in terms of being able to actually produce that level of quality, because we haven't, and we don't at any sort of like frequency. Like that's just not who we are. So let's get like all the way freaking for real about that. But the talents that we do have that we could actually either use within the first team, which I think there's less of that, but more importantly, loan and then sell for a decent fee. We don't do that. We lose them for free, and then somebody else gets their claws in them and then gets to sell. So Amari Hutchinson, I can give a flying F if he left. I didn't care. It was whatever. My gripe is that now Chelsea were able to sell him for $18 million, and we only got $4 million of that because all we had to do was loan him to the championship. If we would have loaned him to the championship quick, earlier, instead of just letting him rot away and have a pathway to him like into the first team or to playing more minutes, we could have gotten that 18 million. Do you know how outrageous that is to get 18 million from a player that was playing in the championship? We could use that, And so we've seen Rule Walters, Lino Sousa, Cozier Dewberry. Did Rule Walters actually go? Before I say this, because I think he did. Yeah, he did. Rule Walters did go. He went to Ipswich, or no, he went to Luton. Yeah. So yeah, Rule Walters, Lino Sousa, Cozier Dewberry, amongst quite a few others that are going for free. That now Aston Villa and Luton Town and all and Brighton will be able to sell for a profit when Arsenal could have done the same. Now we get a funky little nominal fee, but that is my gripe with this whole, whenever you bring up we don't integrate youth, the pushback is that's not a priority. We're in a title race. Why are people caring about the academy right now? We're in a title race. What are they talking about? Or Saka is we have Saka and Nketiah, all of them are in the team. What do you mean we don't integrate youth? When in reality, that's not really what I think the main people are talking about. It's the fact that we don't actually maximize the academy the way other people do. And it's another one of those blind spots, like with selling, that other teams, remember what we talked about at the beginning, the efficiency of the way that people get deals done, the quickness of it, how they get good deals done at good fees and stuff like that. We don't do that. I feel very similarly about how we maximize our academy and how we sell. We have massive holes there that need to be looked at. And so Chido Omi Martin is another one that seems to be somebody that is, for a minute, it looked like he was going to be here with us. And now it looks like he is going to be gone. And it looks like he may be going to Man United. That's the rumor. The rumor is he's going to be going to Man United. People are going to lose their shit. I haven't really watched him play, so I'm not probably going to lose my shit. But again, my issue is that we will lose him for free and we will get nothing. And that's just, we really need to be better at that. And so when people bring up the integrating youth, and the immediate pushback is it's not a priority, and we have youth, we have Highlanders in the team. Those Highlanders have been in the team since Emery was fucking manager. Like, those are the last that have ever gotten into the first team or really been even tried to be integrated. They've been there since fucking Emery. Emery's been gone for 5 years. So we don't integrate youth. They were integrated from a different manager. And beyond integrating them into the first team, the loan system smells. The loan system stinks. Why are we not loaning them to the championship? Why are we loaning them to these random ass motherfucking places? Why can't we get them into championship teams? Why can't we get any fees? Like, because I'm looking at Patino, like, whatever happened to him? You know what's going on. So it's not more important than winning the league. That's not what anybody is saying. There's nuance to the conversation that people try not to talk about because they don't want to shed any light on the idea that maybe we're not as well run as we think we are. Because I'll be real. I don't think that, I think what we've done to like retool the team or like, whatever has been great. We brought in young players and got rid of the bums. But it's not like that's like rocket science. Like, it's not like we've done something like that nobody's ever heard of. We did it and we stuck to it and it's worked for us. But we're beyond that now. We're beyond we got rid of Mustafi and now we have Odegaard and now we're happy. There are so many things that we could be so much better at. So much better at. And that's just one of them. And so when I'm talking about integrating the youth, I'm not just talking about getting fucking Miles Lewis Skelly starting. I don't think he should start. That's not what we're talking about. I'm just like, what are we doing to make sure that if we sell him, we get at least 20 million for him? What are we doing to make sure that happens? That's it. That's all. Foxy says, yep, 21 players left overall and 1 left for a fee. Mike Barrett to Sturmgrass for 4 million. Pretty poor, really. I mean, but if you bring that up to anybody, or some people in the fan base, it's like, you're just being negative. And it's like, these are the types of things that I feel like stop us from being able to buy the players that we want to buy for the first team, to be able to move quickly in the market, is because we don't sell well enough. We don't sell well enough, and the academy is a big part of it. When we sold Willick, I jumped for joy, not because I don't like Willick, but because it was one of the first times that we sold a player before it was obvious to sell him. And that is the perfect time to sell a player, when there's still people that think that player is good enough to do something in your team. That is the perfect time to sell them. Perfect time, because other people then think that they have value, because you're not desperate to get rid of them, because the more desperate you are, the harder it is to get a sale. But they're like, well, of course they have value, because they still have value to Arsenal. Once you're desperate, it's too late. And we got 25 million for Willick, and we've never looked back. And that's no shade to Willick. I think he's done well at Newcastle. But the only reason why I think some people bring him up every once in a while as like we should have kept him is because we've just never really addressed midfield the way that we should have. But genuinely, it was a great sale. It was a great sale, and I want to see us do more of that. Emile Smith-Rowe is probably just on the edge of being somebody that people still think Emile Smith-Rowe is really good, and because he is. So we could probably have another Willick sale with Emile, but like, I'm looking at players like Zinni. Zinni is a really good example of somebody that we should be selling this summer. Like, for some people, it's really obvious that we should sell him because they don't like him. But genuinely, like, he's still a good player. We should sell him. If we're thinking about him not being a big part of the squad, we should sell him this summer when he has 2 years left on his deal, when he doesn't have one more year left on our bench. It's the perfect time to sell Zinni now. Perfect timing. And maybe we could get a good fee. So that we should be able to do that, instead of just having him just rotting, because he's going to rot on our bench this season. Zinchenko, if he stays, is rotting on the bench this season, especially if we buy Calafiori. He is rotting. 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 Back of the fridge. So this is the perfect summer to sell Zinchenko for at least what we paid for him. And he actually switched agencies. That was actually came out today. So I don't know if you guys don't know, excuse me, Zinchenko switched agencies. So yeah. So he may actually be on the move, which would be a perfect scenario for us, because whether we get more or just about what we paid for him, that is so much better than getting nothing for him when he inevitably runs down his deal the summer after, which is basically what's going to happen with Thomas Partey. We'll get nothing for him because he's going to run down his deal. So, yeah. Let's see. Wake Mind says Zinni's head is more on Ukraine for half of the season. Shamara says, I think we do want to sell Zinni as long as we get the right fee. And that's up to Edu. And Edu should be able to get this done, I think. But, we'll see. Because again, we've had players that we could have sold. And what was crazy is because I see I know we're like, oh, somebody's so injury prone. I've seen injury prone Dons get sold. I have. So I don't think it's always about being injury prone. The fact that we could not find a buyer for Kieran Tierney last summer gagged me so bad. It gagged me so badly. I was like, I saw a video from me pop up from this time last summer where I was like, it's going to be so sad to lose Tierney because, he's a great player, but, we need the money and he needs to be moved on. And, he's being linked to Aston Villa, Newcastle, and the shade of it is that if we lose him, he could actually cook at either one of those teams because of the way that they play. Unai knows him. I'm Eddie Howe would love him. I'm doing all this. Neither of them even bought him. Nobody bought him. He was not even on the radar, and I'm just like, that is crazy that we couldn't sell Kieran Tierney. And I know he's injury prone, but injury prone Dons get sold all the time. Not for a lot of money, but come on. But that is leaving somebody on your bench to rot at the back of the fridge for too long. So don't do that with Zinni. Get rid of him now. Do it now, because nobody's going to want him the summer after. So yeah, let's see what else you guys are saying. Also, Tierney is still on the books, so which is mad, I'm seeing Ramsdale conversations. I'm just starring some of these. We haven't talked in a while, so I know we're just talking about everything. Let's see. There's 156 of you guys in here. Make sure you guys are smashing the likes. Let's see. If I sound rough, it's because I am. I'm getting over a really bad cold. So, let's see. Lay says, if we plan properly, someone like Emil should be going for 60 million. There was a point in time where we probably could have gotten a lot more for Emil, but we stuck around with him. We kept him around. I'm like, we don't even play with a number 10. So he's never fit. We don't play with the number 10. We're trying to make him into something he's not. Just sell. It's not even shade. He's a good player, but there were signs that we should have sold him before. If we were to get 35 million, I'd take that though, because it's all profit. It's all profit. Eddie said, we have sent academy players like Patino, Reese, ESR on likes on loan. They're not doing enough to attract big buys. It's Arsenal's fault. Help me understand. Patino, Reese, ESR, I kind of hear what you're saying on them. But some players, the players that we're talking about have left. They haven't even gone on loans. They never even went on loans. So they're in a completely different section. If they go on loans and they flop it, that's completely different. But Reese, ESR in particular, they're like 24 years old, 23, 24 years old. Like they're completely different. But and since then, we've had people inquire about said players and have turned down good money for them. So yeah, it is still Arsenal's fault for not knowing when and how to sell them. Absolutely. Patino may just not be good enough, but like I said, Rule Walters, Lino Sousa, and Cozier Dewberry have all gone for free without having a single loan. So as much as we're trying to point it in a different direction, until we see them on a loan, I mean, I think it was Foxy put it up there, 21 players gone for free and only one was a sale. So no matter how we try to slice it, we're not good at this. Like we're not good at this. Vindaloo says, just keep it real. We have won nothing yet. Big up. I mean, no, we haven't won anything yet. I mean, I feel like we haven't, but I mean, I feel like that's obvious. Facts. He's in there acting a fool. Yeah, we haven't won anything yet, but hopefully we win something this year. That's my hope. That's my hope. Thank you so much for your super chat. Terrence Tip says Saka would be sold if Emery had not gave him a chance. I don't know about all that. Because he loves Saka so much. So I don't know. And the fact that it's like, I actually feel like going back to this, let's be real. The chances that Saka would have been sold are actually very slim because Arteta has not really been desperate to sell any academy players. So the fact that Arteta plays Saka to the ground and the fact that we never sell anybody, actually, I do think that Saka would be in the team. So, yeah. Dante says, we need to clear out the fridge first and foremost. Stop going for prospects. We need the Trossard type signings. Trossard type signings is something that, they, I think James Benge used as like a way to explain the types of signings that we're trying to do, which I do think will disappoint quite a few Arsenal fans because they felt like we needed to go big. We needed to buy big player stars. But I think we need a starting left back. I've said that from the beginning, but that's less of a priority than solving midfield with at least one midfielder and bringing in at least one attacker. So, should that attacker have been a big striker signing? I think Arsenal looked at the market and said, we either do not have the money or we don't like the options that are out there, one or the other, maybe both. And so we're going to go for another type of attacker, kind of like somebody that can fill in. Hopefully somebody that offers a little bit something different. So maybe that's where like the Nico Williams, Pedro Netos kind of come in. And then you have like midfield, which is you buy like a Marino, which I guess you could say is kind of like a Kovacic type signing for City, which didn't up their levels, but just made them a lot deeper in terms of the squad depth. So I'm okay. Like, again, I'm okay with that. I just feel like just get the right people. That's all. Just get the right people. So yeah. Let's see. Yeah, Nashville says it's a boring type signing. To me, a number 8 is not boring because I kid you not, the moment that a good number 8 plays in that midfield, we will be freed from our shackles. We will be freed from our shackles and ready to play real football, this struggle football that we have to play. And that's the thing. It's like, we're so good that even without like a real like functioning midfield for half of the season, we were able to stay in the title race. That's how good we are. Because That was Matt for a long time. And I still don't even think our midfield is functioning the way that it should. Like, you look at the best midfields, they all have like a really good number 8. Nobody's like, what we're doing is very much so trying to recreate the wheel. Get a creative player, get a number 8 and get a number 6, and make sure that they all work together and that they're top quality players, and let it cook. Yeah. Do we have to try to be so fucking clever? No, let's not. Keenan says, so Jess, are you thinking our midfield will be Marino, Rice, Odegaard if the deal goes through? It should be. I don't see any reason why it would not be. I mean, unless Arsenal are going to really like try to nail down this Rice as an 8 thing, but I'm not enthusiastic about Rice as an 8 as other people. I don't think it's the best use of his skill set. I know some people are like, well, we got to get a passer in there. I feel like you need to get a passer in there, but a passer doesn't mean the number 6 has to be a passer. Your number 8 can be a passer. The other midfielder can be a passer that's a little bit further up. Like, this whole idea, like, we could have played with Xhaka, Odegaard, and Rice and survived. We would have thrived, actually. This idea that the passer has to be from deep is all built around the idea that it needs to be in Partey's position. But in reality, we lost. So we had Rice. When Rice came in, before he came in, Partey and Xhaka both had the ability to pass. And so we were great. But we lacked a little bit in transition. We didn't have, just a little bit. So Rice brought in the ability to stop transitions. He could also be a good carrier of the ball. He's a good defender, blah, blah, blah. So it's okay. But we lost 2 passers in one by bringing in Rice and not bringing in somebody else. We could bring in a passer. It doesn't have to be in the 6th position. It could be in the 8th position. It's not that deep. I don't know why people are not clocking on to that. I don't know why we're trying to force Rice into the 8. I think it's an odd fit because Rice is really good in the 8, I feel, when the game is simplified, when we're really dominant and we're kind of just like doing our thing. And our patterns are very simple and we are dominating. But when we have to free flow a little bit more and we need people to be able to come up with creative moments, like Odegaard did against Bayern Munich, or was it Bayern Munich? No, Porto at home, where he figured out a way to like dribble to the side and, pick the pocket and all that kind of stuff. Not pick the pocket, but like pick the seam and like pass and like all that kind of to Trossard, and Trossard puts him back in the net. That's what Rice doesn't have. He becomes more clunky as the game becomes more intricate and the spaces become smaller. And so I do feel like it is an odd fit. It's almost like he's doing a job there rather than it being like a true fit. That's how I see it when I watch him in the 8. Do I enjoy watching him, run up and down and carry the ball and get in the final third? Yeah. But in my heart of hearts, I feel like if you had Xhaka as your left 8 and you had Rice as your number 6, nobody would be crying about this idea that you need a passer at the base of your midfield, because you would have a passer in your midfield. Like, it would be there. But I get it. I don't understand why we're trying to shoehorn him into the 8. And I do feel like I'd prefer to see Rice, Marino, and Odegaard versus forever seeing some version of Jorginho, Partey, Rice, and Odegaard. I don't love Rice in the 8 all the time. It works because Arteta's good at making a shit work. One thing about Mikel is he knows how to make certain shit work. If he has certain types of tools, he can make it do a job. Do you know what I mean? He figured out a way so Kivior could do a job at left back by making Ben White invert. Figured out a way to balance the midfield by pushing Rice further forward, putting Havertz at the striker and putting Jorginho at the base. But all of it feels like if we just went ahead and bought the attacker, bought the left 8, and bought the left back, that all of those problems, we wouldn't have to see anybody doing a job anymore. it would just be solved. You know what I mean? But that's just me. I'm not an advocate of Rice in the 8. But yeah. Caesar says, these guys probably think Casemiro was Busquets at Madrid. Midfield is balanced. You have to find the right profile to balance the midfield. Casemiro move out to leave pivot play on Cruz, relax. I kind of get what you're saying, and I agree with this. I think balance is more important than the actual position. Like, people have got it in their mind. It's like, no matter what, it's like if you see Partey as the number 6, you believe that if Rice is not like that, that means that he cannot be the 6. When in the reality, you just have to find a balance where Rice can sit in the 6 and somebody else is doing Partey-like things, which is basically passes in between the lines, somebody that can find that pass over to Martinelli, those types of things. It's fine. I really don't see the problem, but I really do feel like we're trying to galaxy brain the fuck out of it. Just like I felt like Southgate was trying to galaxy brain it. I think England were much better once they had they only, genuinely, unpopular opinion, the entire tournament, they lacked midfield balance. And, having somebody like Bellingham, who is kind of like a Hollywood passer, like he can do midfielder things, but like really you want him getting on the end of things. And he kind of needs to be that extra player because he doesn't allow any structure in your midfield. I thought England really struggled, especially against Spain, who had a real midfield, But once they had at least Cobby in there, they looked a lot better. And I think instead of just balancing the midfield, he was playing to favorites and playing to the media. And I find similarities in the way that we're trying to solve our midfield problems in the way that Southgate is. Instead of just balancing it and having the right pieces around, they're trying to jimmy rig it and make it harder than what it needs to be. And I just don't think it's that difficult. But yeah, yeah. Tawana says, yes, but Casemiro had 2 passers in front of him, so he had one job. I mean, but we could do the same thing. Odegaard is a passer. Like, he also is a passer. He's not a passenger number 10. He, just like everybody saw, has the ability to find those passes in between the lines. So Odegaard could be a passer. If you had again, I believe, and I'll put 10 toes down, if you had Xhaka and Odegaard and Rice, the midfield would be just as balanced as if you had Rice, Odegaard, and Partey. I think it's just as balanced. But what we have is not that. So yeah. Nashville says Bruno G is certainly good enough to play for Arsenal. I think he is good enough. I just don't think he will play for Arsenal. I don't think we are looking to make a big signing this summer. Olu says technically your 6 needs to be a good passer, as that's the engine room that kickstarts creativity as the ball playing team. Rice needs to improve his passing and distribution skills. Not really. It's about balance. If somebody can explain to me how Casemiro got away with being Real Madrid's 6 for so many years without being like an amazing passer of the ball, then explain it to me, because I need it explained. I really do think people are trying to figure out a way to make it that Rice can never play the 6, but genuinely, he can play 6. He can play 6. Have we ever seen Rice play with another really good passer in the team next to him that plays in front of him? No, we haven't. That's the one thing we've never seen, because we don't have an 8. Like, Southgate refused to play Adam Wharton, which I do feel like would have solved a lot of their problems. Like, if they had played Cole Palmer, let's say Cole Palmer and Mainu, or Cole Palmer and Adam Wharton and Rice, so many of those problems I feel like would have been solved. But that's just me. I do feel like people are trying to make it into he can't play the number 6, but it's just not that. There's no one type of number 6. Like, there's no one type of striker. There's no one type of winger. There's no one type of fullback. there's different types. And if we're going to try to pretend like every single number 6 needs to be the same, then we're pretending like we've never watched football before. So, let's see. Johnny D says, okay, Jess, my honest opinion, we need another 6 that can be an 8, just like Rice, so they can alternate the job if we can't get a quality number 8. I felt that way before if Partey was sold, but Partey staying means that we can, like, buying another number 6 is such a waste of money if we're going to have 2 number 6. Like, basically what happens is, think about squad building wise, Partey and Jorginho are going to leave next summer because both of them, their deals will be done. So that'll open up an opportunity to go for a big number 6 signing next summer that's doing what you're saying, a number 6 that can also play 8. So you're Bruno Guimaraes type of player. So instead of trying to do that this summer, when you already have 2 number 6s that you can use, that you can rely upon in some way, shape, or form. Partey's not reliable, but you know what I mean. He is a great player, and so is Jorginho. Both of them together can put together a season. Then your funds are best used replacing the creativity that you're going to lose from Emile and filling a number 8 spot that you desperately needed filling. Because you're going to have Odegaard and Fabio Vieira. What would be nice is if you have Fabio Vieira and Odegaard as your more creatives. If you could bring in Eze, but let's say you bring in Marino. You have Marino and Rice that can play number 8, 2 completely different players, but both are really good players. Then you have Fabio Vieira and Odegaard that do the creative job. And then you have Jorginho and Partey. To me, that's the best spread that you could possibly get this season, knowing that next summer you'll have the ability to move both Jorginho and Partey on and bring in that elite number 6 that we've been missing. That can also play number 8, if that makes sense. So, yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. Excuse me. Sorry, guys, I'm getting over stuff. Getting over an illness. So if I sound weird, this is where I'm at. But I see where people are saying, oh my God, we struggled with Rice as a 6, like Jado was saying, but ask yourself one question. Have we ever played with a number 8 that is a good passer that's just a number 8 with Rice as a number 6? Have we? No, we haven't. Most of the time where he played number 6, we played with Kai Havertz as a number 8, which was basically like not having another midfielder. So until we see that, I think it's really unfair to just say that he can't play number 6 because we never had another midfielder. Having Emile plus Odegaard and Rice is like not having another midfielder because it's just, there's something missing. And this is why that number 8 is so important, because we don't have one. We don't have somebody that has that ability to be structural in midfield that can do box to box. We just don't have that. And so until I see that, I'm not trying to hear it. I don't hear it. I really don't. Really, Kai Havertz as a number 8 didn't work out. Like, that's really what happened. And so now we're trying to bring in Marino, probably as, a make up for that. I like Marino, Rice, and Odegaard would be just fine. I think it'd be good. Santiago says Chelsea can sell Gallagher to you for $50 million. No, he's not a good player. No, I'm just joking. He is a good player, but we don't want him. O'Malley says at the end of the Fulham game, and Vieira drew a penalty and assist, go figure. The problem that Vieira has is the inability to put together a full 90. He can do 30 minutes, 20 minutes chasing a game. But again, this is why I do feel like Arteta needs to just go ahead and bite the bullet and buy a number 8, because he's never going to set up the team or play in a way that suits multiple creative players in the team at once, which you would have to allow those players to get closer together. You'd have to be a little bit more adventurous to make it worth it for you to lack a little bit more stability in your midfield. And he doesn't want that. He literally plays with Rice. He plays with basically 2 DMs and 4 center backs. So I just don't see Arteta being able to give the license. Like, creative players need freedom. And so Vieira, I think at the most at this stage could probably be an Odegaard step in, but the idea that we would ever be able to play Fabio Vieira and Odegaard together in midfield will require Arteta to be different, and I don't think he'll ever be that. So he should just get a number 8 that could be more box to box. I think Fabio Vieira has a lot of talent, and maybe he could be like a new signing, but genuinely, I just don't see how we play 2 number 10s, like Odegaard and Fabio Vieira and Rice, with Arteta not wanting to allow those creative players to get closer together and allow more freedom, because we play very like that, the positional style. And I think like for Fabio, I think he needs to be able to get closer to his teammates. I think he needs to be able to float a little bit more. And he doesn't allow really anybody to float. If anybody gets licensed to float a little bit, it's Odegaard. So yeah. Almost says, are you worried about us this season? I think we're going to be a problem with the signings we're making. I think we are going to be a problem. I don't know. I don't think I'm that worried, because I know where we're at. I know where we're at. If that makes sense. Like, who we are right now at the end of last season, that team, if that team had played the whole season, we could have talked about something different if we had started with what we ended with. And like I said, as much as people don't want to hear it, I know it's not fun to talk about like a new signing, but we genuinely didn't get to see the best of Martinelli, the best of Jesus. We didn't have Timber. Those are 3 players in itself that I feel like would add so much to the team if they could be in good form and stay a little bit fit. But without, at the very least, like, I think without the attacking signing, without the midfield signing, I'd be worried that we'd have the same X factor problem that we have in those games. But I still think we're a really, really good side. And you also have to count on the players just getting better. I know that people don't care about that either, but our players are still going to get better. So, yeah, I'm not worried. How do I explain it? Do I feel like I'm worried? No. I think I'm just wanting us to get these sales done to see if we can go ahead and start putting bids on players. But I know that we're going to sell some of these players. Will it be for as much as we think we're going to get? I don't know. Because, yeah. So I don't know if something has just come out about Cheeto. The news that Cheeto Obi Martin visited Carrington United training quarters this week is true. United are confident that he will sign with them, but nothing has been signed yet. So that's something else for the Meltdown crew to melt down about. Yeah, it's really not. That's not a good thing. That's not a good thing. I'm not saying it's not something to be upset by. But they genuinely have just signed a striker. They have Hoyland. So what will piss me off is they're able to sell him for a good fee. So yeah. I'm just looking to make sure like nothing else has come up. Yeah, it's quiet days for Arsenal. I think it's quiet days for Arsenal until they make some sales. Until they make some sales. Let's see. Keenan says it's all just talking about Partey. I mean, nothing is more certain to me than death taxes and Thomas Partey not being fit for most of the season. So, as much as I know people are probably so happy that he's staying, as long as they can admit that he's never available when we need him to be, that would be nice. Like, people are very dishonest when it comes to Partey conversations. They make it all about how good he is, but genuinely, if you never see it, it's inconsistent, then, what can you do? So, I mean, you could basically count on Jorginho playing a lot. That's the truth. But we'll see. Let's see. And the fact that we're not able to sell anybody to Saudi is also, Edu went to Saudi Arabia to do what? It's like there's just so many things. Like, didn't we sign Real Madrid's, youth scout or something like that? What is he doing? Where's our wonder kids? Why can't we sell anybody to Saudi? It's just, but we did sign a goalkeeper, didn't we? We did sign a goalkeeper. Let's see. Akin says, yay, Jess is back. I don't want to think like this, but if they are doing this in the market and don't win anything this season, I'm sorry, a lot of us would want them to go. Let's see. O'Malley says, Jess, would you take De Jong even though his ankle injury is up in the air? I don't know, man. Maybe. Maybe. I mean, yeah. I mean, because I really do like him. I really do like him, and I think he's kind of like the exact player that we need in that left 8 that would show people that Rice can play in the 6. Yeah, so but yeah, I see there's a United fan in the thing. They do this every year. They ask people if we're afraid of them because they're signing players that nobody else really cared about. Yenny Laurel, I think he's a good player, but like Xerxes, bruh. Like, no one cares. Nashville says, I disagree with Jess. I think I'm remembering the name right. We can play 2 creative 8s with Timber at left back. We can play 2 creative 8s with Timber at left back. It's all just like a theory, though. We played Timber at left back for 1 or 2 games. And again, if you're going to buy Calafiori, Timber's not playing left back. That's the thing. It's going to be Calafiori. So, yeah. Let's see. Jagoon says, I'm going to be honest. I just want some transfer dopamine. Anything will do. Well, it's crazy because we went from, and this is how I always the whole, as soon as the summer window started, Arsenal are looking to do this and this. They're looking to have a big summer. They have this big transfer kitty all the way down to they're just looking for fillers, I'm just looking for fillers. Like, I do believe that Arsenal, I don't want to say they were unprepared, but I think, having to sell first is proving to be a little bit of an issue. They said that the Euros and all this was a problem and all that, but I don't know. It just feels a little bit like they wanted to do things and then they weren't able to do them. So now they're having to not scramble, but you're not going to be able to get Nico Williams. Not sure why you're, still knocking on that door. Whatever big midfield signing they wanted, they couldn't get. And I just felt like the whole Isak, Bruno Guimaraes, if you don't have the money, why are you even talking to these guys, According to French journalist Adam Sir, Marseille sent an offer about 20 million euros to sign Eddie, but it was rejected. Marseille is planning to send a new improved offer. The idea of joining Marseille tempts the player. Hopefully. Tempt away. Tempt away. Tempt away. Oh my gosh. This should have been done so long ago. So long ago. But yeah, Arsenal are interested in signing Bournemouth CB. No, there's no way. Tommy's set for not being announced today, but will be wanted for the U.S. tour. So, yeah, we signed a young goalkeeper from Ajax. most of our summer has been about goalkeepers. And again, like, it's just like, I get that goalkeepers are important, but fuck, can we get off of it? Let's see. Olu says, save y'all stress. We're gonna get Rafinha. I mean, we're not gonna get Nico Williams, that's for sure. You know, so and I feel like if they were gonna take a risk on Pedro Neto, they would be doing it already. Pedro Neto's been back from the Euros for a while now, so there's nothing stopping us from getting him. So, you know, maybe they are waiting for some dominoes to fall, because I just think that if Barcelona sign Nico Williams, somebody is going to have to make way. And maybe that is Rafinha. I did see something about Rafinha being interested in coming back to the Premier League for like a really small fee, like Richie Rabbit is saying, for like 25 million. That makes more of like a filler sense. You know, if we're talking about fillers like the Trossards and stuff like that, that makes a lot of sense. Rafinha for like 25 million, that makes sense. You can get somebody like Marino, you know, for 20 something million, and then get Calafiori. It's not the summer people wanted, but it might be the summer that we kind of need, you know? So yeah. Nico says, don't expect any incomings if Arsenal don't sell players. We have to sell. Like, the only incoming that we possibly could have done without selling was Calafiori, and that's just stopped. It's just stopped. Solo says, we are taking a step back. Our competition is being aggressive while us are asleep. I do think, like, anytime our rivals sign players, we start feeling some type of way about it. But I think it's just the transfer dopamine hype of everything. There's been multiple windows that have gone by over the last 4 years where our rivals have bought many players, very expensive players, very quickly, or even maybe slowly. And we've been better than them. Like, we have to remember that this is just how it usually is. Last summer was the first summer that we've ever moved quickly at the beginning of the window. That's the only summer that we've ever really been like that. Most summers we are one of the slowest, and it doesn't necessarily mean that everybody else is just doing all this great and wonderful shit, you know. But also, it's in United's best interest to make a lot of noise, because they want to make their fans feel like they're moving in the right direction. And, you know, Chelsea did the same thing when they switched ownership, is they want to constantly be in the mouths of Fabrizio Romano and stuff, because that's what gets the fans on side. They know that this era of fans don't care about anything other than the transfer window. If you really deep it, they only care about the transfer window. That's it. As long as you're buying players in the transfer window and they can go to their group chats and say, we bought so-and-so, we hijacked, that's all that matters. So, you know, but genuinely, like, there's going to be summers where we're not going to be needing as much as we did in the past. And I think this summer is kind of like that. I don't think we need 5 or 6 players. I think we need 2 or 3 good ones. It's just unfortunate that we can't move on them until we sell. That's my only thing. So yeah, Sean says even Rafinha on loan with an option to buy would work. MO type of deal. Eddie says we need Partey or Jorginho profile. The sooner the better. I have all my chips on Lewis Skelly, but he's at least 2 years away. Lewis Skelly should go on loan. Like, he should be somebody that is lined up for a loan in the championship or lined up for something. Like, he's not somebody that's going to get into the first team because we have 15 million DMs, you know, or players that play in his position. Nweri is different because there's probably going to be a little space for another creative kind of that can pop around in like those, you know, advanced midfield positions or out wide. So Miles Lewis-Skelly should be going on a loan. He should be going on a loan. So yeah. Let's see. Jagoon says, I couldn't care less who United signed unless I see it on the pitch. It's irrelevant. But again, like, this era of fans only care about the transfer window. They're talking about winning transfer windows. They're talking about hijacks. They're talking about how much they spend. But when it comes down to it, it's like, but it's not happening on the pitch. So like, what's the difference, you know? Johnny D says, to be honest, I don't want Calafiori. I have Tierney, Zinchenko, Timber, etc. I want an 8. Then we should sell and buy the Italian with what's left. We got priorities. Reverse again. I mean, I kind of talked about this. The order in which you buy players doesn't always mean that doesn't signal priority. But when you only have a certain amount to spend up front, you should go with your priority first because you only have a certain amount of time to get players in before preseason. And so it's not that I don't want Calafiori. I actually do want him. I think we do need to upgrade on Kivior and Zinchenko and Tomiyasu and just nail down that position and never have to buy another left back for the next 10 years. I'm tired. But I genuinely feel like it would have been better if we had went for either the midfielder or the winger first. But I hear you. Let's see. C. Wilder says a CM and Nketiah and Nelson upgrades, and I'm happy. Let's see. Pelza says, looks like we're going to improve on selling this summer. Hope we do this. It's just that it's taking too long that we think than what we think, but maybe they get sales done when they want and buy the players we need not want. Yeah. Yeah, there's listen, if we were able to get the fees that they're saying that we're going to be able to get for these players, that would be an upgrade on what we've done before because we haven't done much before. It's just the slowness in which it's happening and, you know, stuff like that. But, and just the fact that like the Euros and Copa America stopped Arsenal from doing anything. So whatever we do is not going to be done before the start of the season. But when you think about it, and this is where like actually like having rational thought too, is I think most of our starting 11 starting next season is fine because we weren't really going to be improving that much on our starting 11, if that makes sense. Like we know pretty much who our starting 11 is. It's going to be Raya. It's going to be like probably Ben, like let's just say Ben White, Saliba, Gabriel. You know, we have a left back that we can start there. Like Tomiyasu can start the season. That's fine. We all feel comfortable with him if Calafiori is not in, or, you know, you can play Timber there, you know, whatever. You know, you have Jorginho and Partey, if, you know, and then, you know, Rice is, you know, going to be in at some point, Odegaard. My main concern about starting the season is just mostly Saka, that I was hoping to have like a left winger, a right winger, like, or a winger available. But because we're buying mostly players to fill in gaps, it's not that deep if they don't get there before. Whereas, like, remember last season, we had too many fundamental pieces changing at the beginning of the season, so it took us too long to get up to speed. It won't be like that this season because most of the 11 is probably going to be the same. Like, I could probably say it now. You know, let's say we don't have Rice. Let's say we don't have Rice, Saka to start the season because they took the longest. It'll most likely be Raya, White, Saliba, Gabriel, Timber, Jorginho or Partey. We'll have to pick somebody to play left 8. Let's just throw anybody in there. Whoever you guys think. Maybe that's a little bit of a wild card. Odegaard, Gabriel Jesus on the right, Havertz through the middle, and Martinelli on the left. You know? So that's much better than what we were doing at the beginning of last season where we're trying to integrate Timber and Havertz and Rice all at the same time. So, like, again, like I wanted to see a winger at least come in so that Arteta didn't feel like he had to rush Saka back in to start the season. He could actually get the rest that he probably needs. But, you know, you could play Gabriel Jesus there. Do you know what I mean? Like O'Malley's saying that's good enough to beat Wolves for sure. And I know some people are like, but we're going to lose to Wolves. I'm like, be fucking for real. Like, you know what I mean? Like, be for real. Like, I'm not saying that they're a walkover, but genuinely, like, let's stop being like, I can be dramatic. Like, I'm a very dramatic person, but let's be serious for 5 seconds. We start the season at home against Wolves. That, if you don't think that that can beat Wolves at home, you're being a little baby. I'm so serious. You're being a child. Like, you know that we can beat them at home with that lineup, right? So that's just me. As long as we don't put Partey at right back, you know, and that was our, like, one of our main issues. We were, Partey right back, Timber in, Declan, Havertz, all changed. No Xhaka, no Zinchenko, no Jesus. None of these people that were fundamentally in the team are in there anymore. That was a problem. No Gabrielle, like O'Malley is saying. So I think in terms of starting the season, as long as we have like at least 9, like 8 or 9 of the starters from last season, even if we have to fill in with Tommy or Timber at left back, even if we have to Jimmy rig left wing or left midfield, we'll probably be fine. You know what I mean? So not getting them in right away is not like the worst thing in the world. Eddie says, plans still indicate that Ethan Nwaeri will be promoted to Arsenal's first team and feature a lot more this season as Arsenal look to accelerate his development. I'm so excited about Ethan. Like, that's what I'm excited about. Like, obviously can't get excited about signings, you know? Hold on. Somebody's sending me shit. So yeah, I am so like ready for Ethan. I just feel like he's going to add something if we just allow him to. He is creative. He has the Arsenal way. He looks like he's not shook by playing with the first team. And so, yeah, like, I'm excited about that. And he can play so many different positions. So, and the thing is like, we're going to get to see a lot of him in preseason because there's going to be people missing. So I'm excited about it. North Gooner says, worst case scenario, it gets late and we panic buy. Shamaria says, Nwaeri is what excites me most about our preseason. I am too. Like, that's what excites me the most. Seawalder says, yeah, good point. What stubborn thing is Arteta going to force this year? As much as I love him, there will be something. Man. Candace says, are you scared of Man United, Jess? No, I'm not. I mean, I'm not going to say that I don't think Lenny Yoro is good because he was good enough for Real Madrid. So why would he be good enough for Man United? But genuinely, like, we've seen them buy lots of players in multiple windows, and Ten Hag is still their manager. So I'm not quite sure what I'm supposed to be afraid of. Like, it's such like a Twitter fan phenomenon where it's all about buying players, very expensive players, over and over. Like, and that's the best team is the team that bought the most players, but nobody ever thinks about how, like, the foundations of the current teams, what they did last season, do they have a good coach, you know, things like that. All they care about is buying players. And I think that that's just like not it. Do I think that they might be better than last season? Maybe, but they've done this every year. Like, they buy loads of players every summer. So yeah, I don't see what's the difference, you know? And they bought good players in years too. O'Malley says Ugarte is a fouling machine. That's probably one of the biggest reasons why I don't think they'll be that good, because, or they won't really get that much better, is because they're not building the right type of midfield around Kabi. Kabi, I think, needs a different type of DM next to him, not like a Casemiro type. You know, Casemiro and Kabi, I don't think is the right mesh, you know, but that's just my thing. But also, we're good. So if you don't believe that we're actually good and you think that the last 2 years were just a farce or a mirage, then yeah, you'll be scared of Man United. But just because they get better doesn't mean we're naturally going to get worse. So I don't think we'll actually get worse. I think that whether or not we get better is all based around what kind of attacker we buy. Do they have that X factor? And if we finally buy a number 8, I think those are the most important things. So yeah, Foxy says Man United were 8th last season. They have to be better, surely. Can't really get any worse. And that's the thing. It's like, I mean, let's just see. I mean, people even after last summer were saying that they still expected us to finish outside of the top 4, and we were light years ahead of everybody. So I think the best thing is when people think that we're not going to be good, we usually are much better. So yeah, I'm fine with that. Jado says Manu can't progress the ball either and isn't very good in the final third. Very young and quite basic. I think Kabi is good. I think that the problem that he is like with somebody like him, you have to look at his best qualities and see what he lacks and then put that around him so that you can get the best out of a really talented young player. And I just don't know, bringing like a destroyer DM is what's best for him. Like, I actually think he would do really well with like more of like a Jorginho type behind him. But them looking at Onana and then going for Ugarte just stinks of like just getting a DM, and that's just me, but Lenny Yoro, sure, he's a good player. He's 18 though. He needs development. Like, he's not, maybe he comes straight in and he becomes the best center back in the league. Maybe he does. And then Xerxes is another Serie A, center forward that they've bought that didn't even break 15 goals last season. So it's just like, I don't know what to tell you. But it is what it is. I don't know. I'm more focused on us, and how can we get better? Let's see. Is anybody worried about, the media really pinpointing on some of our players in the Euros hurting our players? Because watching the Euros for me was a little hard to was a little hard for me to really enjoy when our players were playing, because it just felt like constant kind of like nitpicking on our players. And there was a lot of negativity around Kai Havertz. There was a lot of negativity about Rice. There was early negativity around Saka. Do you guys worry about any of that negativity hurting them, or they're bringing it into this season? Because I feel like the only player that is a big part of our team that came out well out of the Euros in terms of like media was Saliba. I thought everybody else got a really rough go of it. A really rough go of it, if I'm honest. Shamaria says, I think Rice and Saka will use it as motivation. O'Malley says, I don't. Declan looked tired after the Slovakia game on. I mean, he never gets a rest. So it's kind of, I'm not too worried about the midfield, knowing that we have DMs there and we'll be able to figure something out. But for the beginning of the season, but I genuinely feel like Saka and Declan need to be sat for the first couple of games. I'm sorry, you guys. I'm looking at our schedule, and we have, see, that's our problem, is our second game of the season is Aston Villa away. So, like, can you actually afford to do anything? You have Brighton, so I don't know. It would just be so nice if we felt confident enough for them first 3 games. Wolves at home, Aston Villa away, and our Brighton at home before we got to Tottenham and Man City, to allow Saka and Declan to get the rest that they need, because I feel like they're going to need it. Sucks. So yeah, Kat says nothing hard about the Euros. The best team won. Shamaria says Havertz is so nonchalant, he won't give a shit. Yeah, hopefully not. Tawana says some criticism was fair some wasn't. I would say, like, with the Havertz one is the way that he came to us from Chelsea. I would say that even though he's nonchalant, you could see that, he was broken down at Chelsea about the way that they felt about him. His confidence was in the dirt. And that's the one thing about, you saw the best, not only the best and the worst of Havertz, but it's the best and the worst that we've always known, is that he's a good team player. He's a good, like, footballer, but there's always going to be games where he misses very easy chances. And if you don't have a clinical finisher that you can bring in instead of him, you will lose games. And so I think Germany suffered with that just a little bit, because when they brought in their clinical finisher, he also did not finish any chances on that day. And so it's just something to look at. Kai started off well, and I thought as it became harder for Germany, it became a lot harder for him. And, like, the first bit of criticism that came was all about him, So yeah, I think some of it was fair, some of it wasn't. With England, I just feel like if all of the players, like, if they play for your club team, not Saka and Declan, but, like, even just other players, they play for your club team and they look like normal human beings, and they go to England and look like a shell of themselves, how can you look anywhere outside of the manager? It's just the point scoring and the pointing fingers just felt very stupid, to be honest. Like, that toenail eating asshole was on Instagram stories, like, putting out stuff about players. I'm just like, England are just, like, nonsense right now. Like, this is just crazy. So yeah, hopefully they don't take that with them. But yeah. O'Malley says, I don't know what Trossard was doing all Euros, and his dad making comments. Yeah, he didn't have the best tournament, Trossard. And I just feel like that's just kind of like them. Like, we heard at the end of the season that, Trossard and Arteta had a little bit of a tiff too. And I think Trossard, when he's not playing, says that he's mad that he's not playing. The thing about Trossard, though, is that you can never make me hate him, because he's one of our only players that scores big goals in big moments and doesn't look like the lights are too bright. Again, he was one of our more did he score both of our goals in the knockouts of the Champions League? So until somebody else can do that, I'm not trying to hear anything about Trossard. He should still be in this team. Let's see. Foxy says, I don't think so, to be honest. Negativity towards every England player, really. And for the most part, it was fair. Kane, Foden, and Bellingham got the most. Maybe, you know what? Maybe because I'm an Arsenal fan and I see all the Declan Rice stuff, but it did feel like a lot of it was going towards Declan Rice, like a lot of it. But it was mostly coming from Spurs and Chelsea fans. Like, they were taking their frustrations of Basuma being a bum, and, Enzo Fernandez and, Caicedo not living up to their price tags out on Declan that way. And I don't actually feel like Foden got enough criticism at all. Yeah. Because he was a bum the whole time. Richie Rabbit says Rice had a poor tournament for his standards. I think that's fair. Like, he didn't look like our Declan at all. Jagoon says Scholes is tapped. Ignore him. Keenan. Let's see. Keenan says if Trossard wasn't only clinical game-winning finisher, then I would say move him on. However, we need him as it stands. As it stands, for sure. Till we bring in somebody else that can do that, then that's it. Let's see. Just looking, I thought I saw something. Athletic wants to include Mikel Merino and then Lamore and whatever operation they're pushing forward. The player who has interest in Barcelona, Arsenal prefers to wait before deciding, however. Okay. So this is basically saying that Lenormand, whatever his name is, from Lenormand, from Real Sociedad, is going to Atletico, and so they want Mikel Moreno as well, but Moreno wants time to decide before he goes there. So maybe wants to see what Barcelona have to say, maybe wants to think about us. Barcelona have already made a contract proposal for Dani Olmo and are offering a 6-year deal. People really think that Barcelona cannot sign both Nico Williams and Dani Olmo with no money. Trust, they will pull some livers. They will take out loans. Like, trust and believe. Like, they will figure out a way. They're not going to let Nico Williams and just sit there. Like, there's just no way. So, yeah. So, yeah, but yeah, we've been going for about 2 hours, so we can end it there. But I just wanted to give my thoughts because we haven't talked in a while. And it's exciting times for Arsenal. With no signings. It's just back to normal. Back to normal. I think we thought we were out of the mud last summer when we were signing players early. Now it's like back to life, back to reality. So yeah, but make sure you guys smash the likes on your way out. Get in the comment section after and let me know what you guys thought about everything we spoke about. And yeah, we'll be on more of like a normal posting schedule next week. This weekend I have work. But yeah, and then we will be doing actually at the games, so I'm excited about that. And then we'll actually be able to watch preseason games, so look out for that. But I'll see you guys on the next one. And if I didn't get to your comment, I think I got both of these super chats, but if I didn't get to your comment, I apologize. But there were just so many coming through that I couldn't get everybody. So yeah, but I love you guys to death, and I'll talk to you guys on the next one. Bye, guys.